Will Coach Prime actually coach next year? And is UNC actually on the way to the SEC? Welcome to the Nitro College Football Show. I'm Burl and he's Streit. Lots to talk about tonight. Deion Sanders announcing that he beat cancer, which is awesome. That is fantastic news. And there's talk of University of North Carolina jumping to the SEC. We got a lot of details on that. And there could be some trouble in Florida. DJ Lagway, things aren't good for him. And we're going to talk about who we think candidates who have a chance to win the Heisman are. All right, let's jump in. Deion Sanders has a press conference on Monday, announces that he's been dealing with cancer and has beat it.
Yeah, when they first announced that he was having a press conference with his medical team, I got concerned because you'd heard that he'd been kind of sick. He'd been missing some time. He'd been away from the program some. And whenever you hear that, especially with him, because he's had some other issues in the past with circulation, he's had some toes amputated and some other things, you're always concerned, right? But the good news was that he actually had this press conference as a positive to say that they had found a cancerous tumor on his bladder, that they had removed it, and he had gotten a transplant. And he, other than having to go to the bathroom and not being able to control it very much, he's doing well. So,
yeah, that's really good news. I was kind of worried when they announced it because it was really cryptic, right? And as soon as they said, "Oh, it's going to be with his medical team," it's like, "Oh man!" And come to find out, it was cancer. And thank God he was able to beat it. Let's hope it stays that way. Do you think he's going to be able to make it through the whole season?
I don't know. That's the question, right? I think we talked about this a few weeks ago when we were looking at the prospects of Colorado and what was going to happen this year. And we questioned Deion's health, right? Because, he says he's good to go, but you never know. Even when you've beaten cancer, you've never really beaten it, right? There's always a chance it could come back, and there's always a chance that it could impact your health. So hopefully he's on the sidelines as much as he can be. He has set up his program to kind of run where he's the CEO, and he's dictated a lot out to his coordinators and stuff. So that should be okay. But just hope that he doesn't have to spend a lot of time away from the team this year. I'm sure he'll have to spend some and can be there on Saturdays. But heck, we've seen other coaches who have had serious medical problems coach from hospital beds, literally. If you remember a few years ago, was it Hugh Freeze at Liberty, right? Was coaching from the hospital bed, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So coaches make it work nowadays. And for Deion, I hope it can. And for his team, I hope he's able to be there as much as he can.
I do too. We're big fans of Deion as a Georgia sports legend, and just hope the best for him. Obviously, when it comes to anybody's health, we want the best for everybody. But I hope he can be there for his team. And it seems like it's a really good rallying cry for that team. It gives them the season. So it'll be fun to see how that team does this year, because we've talked about, do we think they're going to continue to progress, or are they just going to flatline? Probably poor choice of words right there, but that's what we're going to be looking for. So best of luck to Colorado and Deion. Hope for the best. And tell us what you think about Colorado's chances. Tell us in the comments. If you love college football, like this video and subscribe to the channel.
Up next, there's always been talk about conference expansion. It's a constant topic in this day and age. And when it comes to the SEC, people have always thought that the most likely candidates to join the conference are Florida State and Clemson. Obviously, those are two of the bigger universities that are currently in the ACC and typically have been a little bit better of the college football powers out of that conference. But this week it came out in the news that there might be a different program that is seriously making a play to join the SEC, and that's North Carolina. Now, when you hear North Carolina, automatically you think basketball, but when you really, really think about it, North Carolina joining the SEC for football reasons may actually make a lot of sense.
Absolutely. But is the basketball team actually good enough to be in the SEC?
Yeah, I don't know right now. They're at a low point, and dang, the SEC overall is as high as it's ever been. But they bring the Jordan brand, and they bring obviously a history of multiple national championships. So I think they'd fit right in.
Yeah, I mean, we've been hearing for years and years that UNC is the sleeping giant of college football. I mean, going back to Butch Davis days, that was the big talk is, okay, he's going to turn this around. And you would think that that is the case, but we've seen it played out a few times. And now we get the Bill Belichick version. So we'll see how that goes. It does set up well, for them if he's there, builds that program up, and then they come in the SEC. If they're built up to be a contender, I mean, that's just going to make the SEC even harder than it already is.
Right. People have always seen that a kind of a roadblock to getting these ACC schools to leave and come to the SEC is the large buyout that they have. It is going to go down. I think in 2032, it drops to $75 million, which, wow, that sounded like a lot of money until last week when Memphis said it was willing to pay $200 million to join the Big 12. And now I'm thinking, hey, maybe if North Carolina gets this deal done, they don't care so much about that money. If there's smaller schools willing to pay that much to get to the Big 12, what are you willing to pay to get to the SEC?
Yeah, if it's $200 million for the Big 12, how much bigger in terms of dollar amounts is the SEC compared to the Big 12?
Well, in this case, I don't necessarily think that them joining the SEC would be them buying in. Memphis was desperate to join. All North Carolina would have to do is pay to leave, but they bring a lot of value to the SEC because let's remember, if you're looking at the SEC, where is the most logical next place to expand? It's North Carolina. You don't have a team currently in that state. So that's a new television market right there. Number one, that adds money to your market. Okay. And number two, it is a geographical expansion, but it's a state that's touching the current SEC footprint. And that's one thing that's kept SEC different from the Big Ten and the other conferences is even though, it's moved out and it's got Texas and Oklahoma, those are still states that are still touching. Everybody's still touching. So that makes sense with in terms of
not touching.
Yeah. In terms of travel and things like that. Obviously we talked about the basketball element, that would help the conference too.
And you get some built-in rivalries there too. I mean, you've got North Carolina versus South Carolina. I mean, that's boom right off the bat. And I think you had another one.
Yeah, I mean, the other one is you could have a new rivalry kind of with Georgia. So put my history hat on here. Georgia is famous for saying that it was the first state chartered university in the United States of America, chartered in 1785. North Carolina likes to say that it was the first state university to open because apparently they were chartered after Georgia, but they actually opened their doors first. And so that's kind of always been a little rivalry between the universities is who was the first true state chartered university to open.
Yeah, but were they a land grant university?
I don't know. But, there is some history there between Georgia and North Carolina. Most famously, that the one time Georgia actually got decent in basketball and made the Final Four, they knocked Michael Jordan out his last year at North Carolina. And obviously, Georgia's best player was Dominique Wilkins, who came from North Carolina. So
UNC, not a land grant university.
Okay, well, there you go. So
we got that going for Georgia.
Yeah,
it's Georgia and Michigan State. Land grant universities. But yeah, that is interesting. Dominique came from North Carolina, went to Georgia. That makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean they made a documentary about how big of a deal it was that he left the state of North Carolina and came to Georgia. One of those SEC story documentaries. So
yeah, I think that'd be a great addition. Think about North Carolina versus Tennessee. I mean, those are probably the closest teams in proximity, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. And North Carolina, like you said, has always been seen as one of those kind of programs that if they ever got the right things going in the right way, they could certainly grow their program. Kind of, it almost reminds me of kind of like Auburn with their basketball program, where they had kind of good recruiting and stuff, and they didn't really, they were a football school, but when they start paying attention to basketball, suddenly they got a lot better. They hired a coach. Granted, he was a little controversial, but he got them going right direction. And now they're one of the best basketball programs in the country. You could see the same thing happening at North Carolina, where you've got Belichick coming in. Now he's not going to be there for that long because he's just not. He's old. But if he could get them going in the right direction, get some of that alumni money a little bit away from basketball and maybe pour it a little bit more into football, you could absolutely see them, developing into a stronger program.
Who do you think would come in with them?
I mean, when they were talking about this, I think the rumors, obviously Clemson is still there. And I think Clemson would be the most likely one just because of their ties. They're strong, they have strong rivalries with Georgia and South Carolina, obviously. The only thing there is it doesn't bring any new television market. I think Florida would fight Florida State coming in a little bit harder too. South Carolina, I don't think would fight Clemson coming in so much. But if you had to go for somebody else outside of the current footprint, outside of those schools, Virginia, maybe, just geographically, if you didn't want to have somebody already in your state.
We already have Vanderbilt.
Yeah, we don't need another pure smart school. That's why Duke doesn't have a chance.
Right. They're a good story every now and then. So, audience out there, who do you think should join the SEC? Give us your thoughts. Should the SEC even expand, or should it just stay? Is it good how it is? Let us know in the comments. Okay, moving on to Florida. So I mentioned earlier there's some trouble down in Florida. DJ Lagway spotted on crutches. He's hurt again.
Yeah. It was interesting. All of this preseason hype, all these post-spring, who's going to be the top players in the country, the SEC quarterback rankings, all this hype about DJ Lagway. And I said, hold on. Now, this is a guy who, yes, he has physical gifts, but he got hurt some last year. He needed to work on stuff. He had a shoulder injury that caused him to miss all of spring. So he didn't get that development time. And now they haven't even started practice. He's walking around in a boot. They say it's minor. They say he'll probably be ready for the start of fall camp. That's great. But any missed time is very, very valuable to a guy who missed all of spring, who was a true freshman last year, who clearly had some stuff to work on. Physical gifts aside.
Yeah. And I couldn't tell you Florida's backup quarterback's name without looking it up, so I just did. Aiden Warner. So we're going to learn about this kid. He's the transfer from Yale. Okay, I do remember him.
He's the kid who came in and played. Year. Yeah, he played against Georgia last year. What a nice little touchdown drive in the second half that kind of to get Florida back in the game before Georgia kind of turned it on at the end. But yeah, I mean, if I'm Florida, you got a lot of wagons hitched to DJ Lagway. So wrap him up in bubble wrap, and hopefully he's ready for the season.
For real. I mean, it's a shame for this kid because, I mean, you hate to see anybody get hurt, especially when someone is supposed to have a great season. And like you said earlier, so much hype around DJ Lagway. I don't know that it's very justified, in my opinion, just because his numbers really aren't that great when you look at him.
I mean, he was barely above 50%. I think he had what he had 12 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, something along those lines.
Yeah.
So he, like I said, he needed development. He was a true freshman forced into starting last year when he wasn't supposed to be the starter. So he needed that development time. And the schedule doesn't, they've got 2 cupcakes to open the year, but then the rest of their September and early October, whew, man. I mean, they get LSU in week 3, they get Miami in week 4, a bye week, and then Texas and Texas A&M. So that's for their first 6 games. They don't need him missing time early in the season.
Yeah, I ran into a Florida fan while I was at the grocery store the other day. I was wearing my Georgia stuff, and he asked me if I was ready for college football, and he said, "Man, do you think that the SEC is just mad at Florida or something because they keep giving us the schedule?"
Yeah. I mean, well, it worked out last year. It's the flip-flop schedule of last year. So Georgia's obviously got the tough schedule too, but they scheduled some tough games that they had on their out-of-conference schedule before the SEC, threw them to the wolves. They had the Miami games already on the schedule, and obviously they play Florida State. So it's not going to be easy.
As you laid it out, DJ Lagway being a freshman last year, it makes sense that his numbers were what they were. So there is an expectation that he's going to make a pretty big jump from year 1 to year 2 after a full year in the system.
Right, because he wasn't supposed to be the starter. Graham Mertz was the starter, and he was forced into play when Graham Mertz went down for the season.
Okay, maybe I can get behind the hype a little bit.
If he can stay healthy, that's always been the question for me. Can this guy stay healthy? They have an awesome offensive line to protect him. They've got some good receivers coming, or between the transfers and the guys they got on campus. They've got some young running backs. They can be very successful, but they got to keep this guy healthy.
Yeah, and you can't be great if you don't see the field.
Absolutely.
So you got to stay healthy. So hopefully he does stay healthy, but still loses to Georgia. And hopefully they lose every game because it's Florida. But that's just me as a Georgia fan. So how do you think they're going to fare if DJ Lagway doesn't play?
Man, if Lagway can't go, I mean, this, like I said, they have this insanely hard schedule anyway. I think it's number 1, number 2 in the country.
Do they even make a bowl game if he doesn't play?
If he's hurt at the beginning of the year, man, it's going to be it. They should. They have a few easier games. If Florida State is not any better, they've got Mississippi State. They should be able to win enough to get to a bowl game. But if Lagway is not in there, I can't project much more than that if he's not out there.
Yeah, I agree. That's good. They got a tough sled no matter what, no matter who's the quarterback. So we'll see. If you're a Florida fan, tell us how nervous you are on a scale of 1 to 10. Leave it in the comments. Let us know if you have any confidence in the Yale kid, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yep. All right. So our last topic for tonight, wanted to take a look at the candidates for Heisman. So we have kind of grouped these together into 2 groups. One we call the favorites, and one we call the field. Now, when we start to talk about these candidates, you're going to notice that these are not necessarily the same candidates that you're seeing online or in Vegas, because the realistic thing is you have to be in the right situation to win the Heisman. You can't just be a person going out there and having a great season. There's a lot of other factors about what schedule you're playing, when your big games are, what do you have around you? So we factored kind of that all in, and we kind of put together a list of our top 10 candidates. Now, there may be more than that, but this is our list for now. So let's start out. Group 1, we're calling this the favorites to win the Heisman Trophy. And I'll kick off the first one, which I think is a guy that is on every single Heisman list, and that's Jeremiyah Smith. Sophomore wide receiver from Ohio State. Fantastic freshman year, huge part of their national championship team last year. 76 catches, 1,300 yards, 15 touchdowns as a true freshman on a team that also had Emeka Egbuka. You can't look any other way than say that was fantastic. I think he is the best player in the country. What are your thoughts on Jeremiyah?
I 100% agree. I've been saying for weeks that Jeremiyah Smith is my Heisman winner, and yeah, I mean he has the potential to be better than Julio Jones.
Easily.
I mean,
put up better numbers as a freshman.
He's insane.
He's got 2 more years.
I've never seen a receiver like him play and just dominate a game like he has. What I saw last year just was mind-blowing. So if he's not the front runner, then I don't know what he has to do to win this thing. Maybe he needs to go, take a few snaps at corner too, and then he'll win.
Too bad he's got somebody on his team that already kind of plays multiple ways.
I know. But, the Ohio State has a lot of questions, though. And as a receiver, you gotta have a quarterback get you the ball. And Ohio State's got new quarterback starting, whole new offensive line. There's a lot of question marks there. Granted,
two new running backs.
They are still Ohio State, so the expectation is they are still going to be good. But how good?
But Burl, the Vegas says that Julian Sayin is a top 10 Heisman candidate.
Yeah. If you're starting quarterback for Ohio State, you're a Heisman candidate.
I know. It's just funny because I don't even know if he's officially been named the starter yet, but that's going to determine a lot there. But like I said, they've got two holes at running back too, and both their running backs were kind of involved in the pass game last year. So that's another spot for him to see even more catches, which is insane.
Yeah. I mean, their running back tandem last year was absolutely nuts. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that.
So second person that we thought would be in that group of favorites is running back Nick Singleton from Penn State. Earl, tell me about Nick Singleton.
Great running back, Penn State, part of that two-headed monster. I'm not as high on Nick Singleton in this particular instance, just because I kind of feel like Katron Allen might be a little better, but that's just me. He did average 6.4 yards a carry, had over 1,000 yards last year, 12 touchdowns, 41 catches, 375 yards receiving, and 5 touchdown receptions. So great running back. He's got great talent. He's in a really good situation with veteran quarterback, a lot of talent around him. Penn State probably has the most complete team in the Big Ten going into the season. So it sets up really well for Nick Singleton to have a big year, but it depends on how much is he going to share with Katron Allen.
So that's the knock, right? The knock is that he shares a spot with Katron Allen. I think the difference between him and Katron Allen in that offense is how he's used in the pass game. He had 41 catches, 375 yards last year, 5 touchdowns. I think that was the third most receptions on the team. First on their team was Tyler Warren, and he's gone. And he had a huge percentage of their receptions. Like, it was crazy how much they threw the ball to Tyler Warren. So there are catches there available, and I think Singleton has a chance to increase his pass catching numbers. And like I said, he rushed for just a few yards less than Katron Allen, but he averaged 6.4 yards a carry. Allen averaged 5. So he was better in the carries that he did get last year. He scored more touchdowns. I think the potential to add more in the pass game and the hype around Penn State makes him the perfect type of guy that could be a candidate to win the Heisman, just even though he has an awesome teammate that he shares the backfield with.
Yeah, I would say the other knock, so to speak, is that they do have Drew Aller, and he's going to be a Heisman candidate. If Penn State's rolling, he's going to get more of the credit than anybody, because that's just how the world works. Quarterbacks get credit when they don't deserve it, and they get blamed when they don't deserve it.
All right. So speaking of quarterbacks, we can't have a Heisman candidate favorite list without a quarterback. So the first one that comes to my mind is Cade Klubnik.
Julian Sayin.
We already mentioned him, but no, Cade Klubnik, quarterback at Clemson, coming back for his senior year off a fantastic junior season. 3,700 yards, 36 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions last year, and he had 7 rushing touchdowns. So 43 touchdowns responsible for last year on a Clemson team that is expected to, if they can get past LSU in week 1, steamroll its way into the playoffs next year.
Yeah, I've got really high expectations for Cade Klubnik. Last year was kind of weird. He started out a little rough, but then I don't know what happened. Something clicked and he just went insane and just started lighting it up. So if he stays in that insane mode in 2025, Clemson's going to be hard to stop, and it's going to be really hard to not select Klubnik as your Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, I think another advantage he has in terms of a Heisman Trophy candidate is week 1, they host LSU. Garrett Nussmeier, a lot of people consider him a Heisman candidate. So you've got 2 Heisman candidates going one-on-one week 1. It's a national game of the week. It's going to get the national spotlight. So right there, if they come out and they win that game and he has a great game, he's going to vault to the top of that list real quick. The other thing I like for Klubnik is that he's got a strong defense on the other side of the ball. Clemson's defense is going to be one of the best in the country. He's not going to be put in a ton of positions where he's going to have to go out and make something crazy happen. If they can stay healthy in the run game, which they couldn't do last year, once again, that's going to reduce the chances. He only threw 6 picks last year, and he basically at the end of the year having, no healthy running backs and having wide receivers taking snaps at running back. And so I think he's set up for a good year.
Yeah, and their end of the season is pretty good. They get SMU in October, Florida State, and then in South Carolina.
All right, so the last of the group that we called the favorites is running back Jeremiyah Love, junior running back from Notre Dame. This is a guy who got a lot of press down, at the end of the year last year, was hurt a little bit, but had that crazy 90-plus yard run in the playoff game against Indiana. Ran for 1,100 yards, 17 touchdowns last year. Added a little bit in the passing game too, 28 catches for 237 yards, 2 touchdowns. And he had 17 rushing touchdowns last year. And when you consider the fact that Riley Leonard was on his team, who kind of took a lot of those rushing touchdowns from him because he had 17 rushing touchdowns from the quarterback spot last year, there's a chance for him to really, really rack up the numbers. Obviously, it's Notre Dame. They get more exposure than anyone, and they're going to be a top team. They've got some really, really good, solid games. Texas A&M near the beginning of the season. I think Love is set up to have another good year and be a candidate there at the end.
Jeremiyah Love is the guy that I hope wins the Heisman. I love great running backs. I wish that the running back position was valued more than it is today, because back when there was great running backs, that was just an awesome thing to see. And I think Jeremiyah Love is the best running back in the country. He was probably the second best running back in the country last year behind Genty. And I'm a big fan of him. So I'll be pulling for him. And I think he'll at least go to New York.
Yeah. Barring injury, right?
Barring injury, and we'll see what kind of support he gets from the quarterback this year too.
That is a question. So that wraps up the group that we called the favorites. The rest we're calling the field. Keep in mind that with all of these are not presented in any particular order of how we think they're going to finish in terms of this Heisman race. These are just our candidates. So we'll turn our attentions to our second group.
Yeah, so first person we'll talk about in our field list is someone who you kind of alluded to earlier about playing different positions. Caleb Downs, junior defensive back for Ohio State. They pretty much keep him at safety, but he also returns punts. He can lock down coverage people, and you can even use him on offense at running back or receiver. He's that versatile. And
yeah. I think he's in a good spot because of name value, right? Everybody has known who this guy was since he was a freshman at Alabama. Now, winning a Heisman Trophy from a defensive position is tough anyway. Charles Woodson did it. He played corner, but he also played receiver on offense. So for Downs to
Travis Hunter, the only other.
And of course, but he was primarily receiver and DB. I mean, he was a starter both ways. For somebody who is primarily a defensive player, you're going to have to put up crazy stats. And as good as Downs was last year for Ohio State, he didn't have crazy numbers. He only had in the 40s in tackles, 2 interceptions. He had that one punt return touchdown, late in the season, but he didn't have crazy numbers. So for him to make it as a Heisman candidate, 2 things are going to have to happen. Number one, Ohio State's defense is going to have to be absolutely lights out with him as the leader. And number 2, he's going to have to put up stats. So he's going to have like a crazy interception total, or he's going to have to return like 3 punts for touchdowns or something like that will really vault him up. But if those things happen, then he would absolutely get the story, because everybody loved the national media story last year of a guy playing 2 ways. It was fantastic, and I think they would love something like that again.
They would, but he's no Dan Jackson.
That's right.
Okay, next we're heading down to Arizona State. This is a guy that I'm really pulling for, Sam Leavitt. He kind of hit the scene last year out of nowhere, like RKO'd out of nowhere, getting Arizona State all the way up to first place in the Big 12 into the playoff. So he's got a lot on his shoulders this year, since there's no Cam Scatabo to take over games anymore. So what odds do you give him being that leader and being able to make up for that loss of Scatabo?
I mean, I think a lot of it lies on the success of Arizona State. If they can repeat what they did last year and be a power team in the Big 12, and he continues to grow. He was a redshirt freshman last year. So 2,800 yards, 24 touchdowns, only 6 picks, 61% completion percentage. Huge room to grow there. And I think his receiving room last year was very inconsistent, not great. They relied a lot on Scatabo last year. So if he gets better receiver play and they continue to find success like they did last year, they're a winning team and they're competing or winning that conference, there's no reason that he wouldn't be back as up there as a Heisman candidate. I think he's got the tools and everything. So we like what his coach does too. So.
Oh yeah. Love. What's his name?
Kenny Dillingham.
Dillingham. Yeah. We love Dillingham.
All right. Up next, we have another quarterback. And this is one that's really interesting, because if he really blows up statistically, he absolutely can win the Heisman. And that's LaNorris Sellers, redshirt sophomore quarterback at South Carolina. I think the biggest improvements he has to show this year is he has to continue to improve as a passer, right? He was quick to run. He had 18 passing touchdowns, 7 rushing touchdowns. So 25 touchdowns is great, but it's not great for a Heisman candidate, right? And had a great defense last year. And so they could kind of run the ball and chew people up. Really down the stretch, he played well. But to really be a candidate for a position or a trophy like the Heisman, he's going to have to really pad his numbers a lot.
Maybe. I think if South Carolina goes undefeated, I don't see any situation where LaNorris Sellers isn't the Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, if South Carolina goes undefeated.
Hey, I mean, stranger things have happened.
I guess. South Carolina, whose last conference championship was in the ACC.
Yeah. Well, the ACC is getting absorbed by the SEC, so.
Very true. I think he has all the skills, right? He's quick.
Absolutely.
He's decisive. And he was a redshirt freshman last year. So, the continued improvements that you expect to see another year in the program. He's got a freak at receiver in Nick Harbor. They could absolutely do some damage. So
the hype that DJ Lagway gets, I feel like should go to LaNorris Sellers.
Yeah, he's a little more proven, right?
He's proven and has much better numbers. And he was the linchpin for their wins and losses last year. I mean, he gets hurt in the LSU game, they lose that game. If he doesn't get hurt, they probably win. So we'll have to see if he can make it through the season without getting hurt. Because if he runs a lot, that's a lot of opportunity to get hurt. But I'm really pulling for him. I think he has all the talent in the world, and we're going to be keeping an eye on him.
So up next, I want to talk about a running back, a true sophomore running back that I have not seen on a lot of people's lists as a Heisman candidate, but the chips fall right this year. This guy could be the focal point of a team that could kind of come out of nowhere to win the ACC. So the player I'm talking about is Isaac Brown, sophomore running back from Louisville. Ran for 1,100 yards last year as a freshman. And I really see Louisville as kind of the biggest challenge for Clemson in the ACC this year. I know a lot of people aren't talking about them, but they've got Miller Moss coming in from USC to play quarterback. And I think that's going to help open up their offense a lot. And Isaac Brown is awesome. If you've watched any of him, he's a fantastic back. So this is a guy, like I said, put up 1,100 yards last year as a freshman. I can only see the numbers going up. And if Louisville's a player, as you saw, Louisville will get behind a star player like they did for Lamar Jackson. So if Isaac Brown is that guy, I can see the momentum getting behind him. And if they can knock off that supposed to be super powerful Clemson team and a Miami team with Carson Beck, I could see him in New York.
Yeah, they got that Papa John's money, baby. But yeah, 1,100 yards as a freshman. Wow.
As a true freshman, yeah.
I mean, Georgia hadn't had a 1,000-yard rusher in a couple of years.
I know. It's kind of sad, right?
Yeah.
we got used to him.
It hurts the heart. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. He's definitely a guy that's really not on the radar at all. So he's perfect for this group too. Now we got somebody that everybody's very aware of. He was 17 years old last year. It's Ryan Williams, sophomore wide receiver from Alabama. He's 18 now. So look out.
Yeah. I mean, this is a guy who broke onto the national scene really early last year, right? First 4 games, 450 plus yards, 5 touchdowns, the huge catch at the end of the Georgia game, right? But then he kind of tapered off. Second half of the year wasn't really that good for him. A lot of inconsistency, some drops. And as big as his first 4 games were, he only ended up, I say that for a freshman who was 17, with 865 yards and 8 touchdowns. The tools are there. Obviously, he's going to be a year older. I think the key for him is he's the most recognizable face on that offense for Alabama this year. And if Alabama is what I expect they're going to be, he's gonna get lots and lots of attention because I think he's going to play well. I think he's going to continue to grow. I think he will return to form.
Yeah. Well, I think you can put some of the inconsistency on Jalen Milroe. His second half last year was not very good. So couple that together, it makes it tough. But I'm with you. He could totally be in the mix, at least making it to New York by the end of next year. I mean, when I look at him, I think Devontae Smith immediately. He's a Heisman Trophy winner at receiver, and he did it when there were 3 different great college quarterbacks coming through that all could have been Heisman Trophy candidates. Well, 2 of them was for a little bit, I guess.
Yeah. And I think the other thing for Ryan Williams this year was, I think a couple of years ago when DeBoer was at Washington and he had Penix and he had Rome Odunze, his go-to guy in that offense. And now that Alabama, that DeBoer's got his offensive coordinator down there to run his system, and Ty Simpson, we don't know, but from everything we hear, Ty Simpson fits a lot better in DeBoer's system than Milroe did. So if that lines up, Ty Simpson's going to have his go-to guy, and I really think Ryan Williams will put up big numbers for them.
Yeah, I feel like him having a full year under, I guess, another full year under DeBoer, without all of the culture change and everything of the Nick Saban transition there, I think that's going to help him out a lot. Ty Simpson is the big question mark, but he's got a lot going for him in general. I mean, he was a 5-star coming out of high school. He's stuck with the program. He's been in this system for the past couple of years now. And like you said, he maybe he fits the mold a little better than Milroe did, but you can kind of make comparisons to Penix with the way he ran. But I guess Penix stopped running as much after he got hurt, so
Yeah,
he's
and
much more
he
of a
didn't run
thrower.
as much at Washington than he did when he was at Indiana.
Right. That's what I think of when I remember some of those awesome plays he made at Indiana.
Right.
Um,
But it was
so
Indiana when they were really horrible, and he kind of had to run around a lot.
he had to. Yeah, he absolutely had to. Those fun games to watch, though. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's in prime position to have a big year, and I think he ends up in New York.
All right. So our last one, and lots of people are watching this are going, what about Arch Manning? All right. Well, we'll talk about Arch Manning because as an unproven quarterback, he is set up as good as anybody to be in New York if he plays well this year. He will have every chance to get there. He will have all of the media hype. He has a great team around him. And you know that if it gets to the end of the year, there's going to be, and he plays very well, there's going to be that discussion of how Uncle Peyton didn't get his Heisman and he deserved it. And so maybe we need to make up for that.
Or they stick with it and say, we're never going to give a Manning a Heisman. 0 for 4, baby. That's just the spite in me. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, he's got everything going for him. Texas can even lose a game and he could still win the Heisman just by name recognition and the fact that his team is in the mix for the playoffs.
Yeah.
So,
and one important thing for him that is he's got a showcase game at the end of the season.
Yes, he does.
Texas comes to Athens in November, right at the end of the season. And that is a chance for him to really show off and cement, his candidacy. If he's playing great and they come to Athens undefeated or with one loss, they come into Athens and win that game, it was going to be in New York.
Absolutely. But that's going to be when Gunner shows up and takes his spot.
I sure hope so.
All right. Any more?
Nah, that wraps up our list.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this week. We appreciate you hanging out with us tonight. And before you go, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel.
Starting next week, we will kick off our 2025 season previews with our national preview. So be sure to tune in and check it out. Until next week, go Dogs.
Go Dogs.